People ask me what first attracted me to this business. The word I might one day get to scrape bird crap off a guy in a cross rarely sprung to my lips.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Jonathan Creek podcast. Ian, what first attracted you to this business?
It was the high wages and the
Glamorous girls?
Well,
drugs?
I've not seen many of these things, but
No. One
I'm sure
day.
it'll come eventually.
We don't want to be overnight successes.
No, that would be too easy.
No. Over a lifetime would be.
Well, I think we do want to become overnight successes, just not yet.
Yeah.
In the future.
That's the best way of thinking of it. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you this week?
Better than last time.
Excellent.
93%, I would say.
93%?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Getting there.
it's well enough that we're not going to give you any sympathy for the remaining 7%.
No.
I think that's fair.
You wouldn't notice it if I didn't tell you.
Yeah, but you will.
Certainly. This week's episode is the Checkered Box. The title doesn't really, we've had this a few times, I think it's doesn't really play a pivotal role in the episode.
Not at all. I suppose it's just a red herring in itself.
Yeah.
A bold move.
Lazy move. This sounds intriguing. It's not.
No, it's in no way intriguing.
Yeah. Okay, but overall, I think I said last time, this was an episode that stood out for me in my mind. One that I enjoyed.
Yeah, there's certainly, I think we've mentioned this more than once, that some of these episodes that it has things to pick at, but overall it's an enjoyable hour.
I'm always wary, however, that the episodes that you enjoyed when you don't consider it too critically suddenly become very flawed when we think about it for the podcast.
It reminds me of back at school when you were made to study a book, and it could have been your favourite book, but when you've gone through every paragraph and every sentence, it's not something you ever want to read again.
It reminds me of the Columbo podcast. I think I mentioned in the Bye Bye Sky High IQ murder. That was always one of my favourite episodes. Thinking back, at one point I think I said put it number 1.
Yeah.
But when we watched it for the podcast, there was too many flaws and problems for me, and it dropped dramatically down my ranking.
You ruined your own childhood.
I did. Anyway, I don't think this will ruin our childhood or adulthood.
Let's hope not.
Quite impressive if it did.
It would be a heck of a podcast.
Anyway, we've rambled for quite a bit. Do you have a summary for us?
I do.
Do you fancy cracking on?
I do.
Crack on.
In the Checkered Box, Jonathan faces a challenge when a top-ranking policeman impresses Carla with his quick thinking in solving a locked room mystery. When this officer later becomes the prime suspect in a murder, only Jonathan can set the record straight. But will he do the right thing? And can he figure out what's in the Checkered Box?
I'm sure he can.
He figures everything out, doesn't he? He'll probably just guess and he'll be right.
Yeah. Carla's house, the Baxter Household, is where we begin this week, and it starts off with a nice rooftop view of London.
Yeah, and then we get a noisy introduction to their suburban environment.
Yes, there's a number of workies digging up the road outside as Carla gets ready for the day and Baxter eats toast and jam in bed.
Were you nauseated by his messy eating?
Not really. I do like a bit of toast and jam.
I don't understand how he got jam on his bottom lip.
Just a messy eater.
But the jam's only on one side of the bread.
Did you think, when watching this, because what we see is him taking a bite then using his napkin to clean his mouth, and it looks as if there's a lipstick kiss mark left on it. Did you think that was going to, that Carla would be suspicious of him, or it would play a role at some point in the episode?
No, I just thought it was a segue from him to Carla. It's obviously it's her lipstick. But I thought it was good. It wasn't long enough for me to think about it much, but I thought it was a nice segue.
Okay. The racket continues outside, and Carla is annoyed that after 3 days, she still can't use her toilet.
Yeah, and the fact she still needs reminded after 3 days that she can't use her toilet is a bit of a concern.
Baxter is his typically sanguine self. Nothing really seems to stress him too much other than poor demographic ratings.
Yeah, that's about it, isn't it? He's put a sign on the toilet.
Yeah.
It says, don't even think about it. I think the toilet's only separated from their bed by a curtain So you can imagine if she made a deposit there and there was no flush.
Let's not imagine.
No.
We discover that she has an assignment that involves going out on the road with the police and covering what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, she's stressing about her outfit a little bit. She asks Brendan if she looks too frivolous, but he's got some statistical data behind his response.
Yeah, he thinks there's a large percentage of the viewership who quite appreciate her more liberal dress sense.
Well, you say that, but what he actually says is that 80% of her male fans find her to be prettier under pressure. That's got nothing to do with what she's wearing.
Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Pretty or under pressure?
Yeah.
Pretty and under pressure?
No, I think prettier under pressure. I think he's saying that when she's in a stressed situation, they find that attractive. But that doesn't really reflect on what she's wearing. Although I suppose what he's trying to say is wear something that they're going to like.
Yeah.
He's got news in the mail. He's excited.
Yes, he has a letter advising him that his recent colonoscopy is award-winning.
Or potentially. It's a textbook example of intestinal polyps, and it's being considered for use at a teaching hospital.
Would you allow, if that was you, would you sign off on your video being used as a teaching aid?
Well, I've got a problem because I've had my name tattooed on the inside of my small intestine, so it would be identifiable.
Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
Carla then has to go out and run the gauntlet of very 90s laddish behaviour to use the easy lav that Baxter's hired.
It is sadly probably still prevalent behaviour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you saw a lot of if you were on Twitter 6 months ago when all this Me Too stuff was starting.
Yeah.
It happens to most women, and it's unfortunate.
So we've got the workies shouting at her, passing taxi drivers also having a mouthful.
Giving a mouthful.
Giving a mouthful, yeah. Perhaps not having a mouthful in this situation.
No.
And it's just especially embarrassing because she's a well-known face.
Yeah, it's her off the telly.
Yeah. Where do we go next?
A park. I presume they usually use Hyde Park. I don't know if it is Hyde Park or meant to be, but a park in London.
Yeah, where we meet Jonathan this week as he puts away a letter that has left him looking quite concerned.
Jonathan then sees, I think it's a poster for Adam's current trick that's fallen down. He picks that up and we learn that Adam's taken on a sort of a David Blaine style endurance feat.
Yes, he's to be buried alive for 8 weeks.
8 weeks? I thought it was 8 days. Pretty sure it's 8 days.
You think?
Yeah, they're on day 4 and he's already struggling.
Okay.
Well, if someone can correct us, whichever one of us is wrong can
8 days isn't
suck it up.
as impressive.
No, it's more impressive than
1 day?
not doing it. Yeah,
Are you impressed?
I'm not even impressed by David Blaine, to be honest.
No.
He went out of fashion really quickly, didn't he?
Very.
Yeah. Anyway, Jonathan wanders over to where we learn the trick is presently taking place.
Yes, so there's a perspex sheet across the open grave.
Yeah, and we can see, I initially thought there'd be some sort of escape and it would just be an enclosed coffin and he would actually be someone else in a caravan or something and then he would slide back in at the last minute.
Yeah.
But no.
Like the dummy's head from last week, was that?
I think so. Well, a couple of weeks ago.
Jonathan then speaks to a bumbling security chap called Marty, who gives him a walkie-talkie, which he is able to use to speak to a near-delirious Adam.
Yeah, he's been down there for 4 days and he's struggling now with things like words and recognising people he knows.
Yeah, he's starting to lose it. And he also has a problem with the vibrations from the underground trains.
Yes, I think he says the Circle line or the District line is nearby and it's causing him some discomfort, shall we say.
Yeah, and Jonathan has some further bad news. He has been ordered, I think this is the letter that we saw him reading.
It is.
To bring Adam up after complaints of him looking up girls' skirts whilst pleasuring himself.
Yeah, to be fair to Adam, there's only one place he can look. If they're standing there, what's he meant to do?
Yeah, and I think they both agree that it's quite preposterous.
Yeah, and the second part of it becomes clear.
Yeah, they both agree it's preposterous until a train does indeed pass nearby and all suddenly makes sense.
Yeah, Adam's face does sort of
Contort,
relax perhaps into a certain expression that could be misconstrued.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed the visual humour with that.
It was nicely done.
From there we go to a hospital.
Yes, Carla is recording a live piece to camera.
Yeah, she has a crew with her, and she's following the cops to a double motorcyclist decapitation.
Yes, it's unfortunate for the motorcyclists that their heads have been switched, and Inspector Fell has to point this out to the hospital staff.
You see Inspector Fell, we've not been introduced to him yet.
No, he is the big boss man.
Yeah, he's the chief. Yeah, he tells two of the doctors or paramedics that their heads are on the wrong way around, and they ask him how he knows this.
Yeah, it turns out the two men are quite racially divergent.
And Carla winces as the mistake is then remedied in front of her.
That was unnecessary.
It was, but again, it's the black, dark humour of Jonathan Creek.
They should have had some gore dripping out the necks.
Their next stop is a flat.
Yeah, we see Carla in the car, again recording to camera. It's 11:15am. They're heading across town to investigate a sudden death that may or may not be sinister.
Yeah, she meets a Detective Bryant who briefs Fell on what looks like perhaps a suspicious locked room murder. There's an older man lying dead in his bed.
Yeah, Inspector Bryant is a man we can add to our collection of rotund police inspectors.
He is. A gum-chewing Fell inspects the body and then a book on the bedside table before turning on the TV to see it is set to Channel 5.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, especially back in the day, Channel 5, even these days, doesn't have a very high reputation.
No, it's just trash mostly.
Yeah, garbage.
And reality shows. And Australian soaps. I think they bought them all.
Yeah, I think garbage covers all that.
The cleaning lady apparently raised the alarm that morning when she found the bedroom door locked from the inside by two large draw bolts.
Yeah, why would she raise the alarm rather than thinking he is having a long lie?
Because I think the point is there wasn't any bolts on the door previously.
All right, okay.
And
no.
She can't get in when previously.
No, there couldn't have been. No, there would have been bolts in the door. Because, because if you're setting it up to look like an accident, you don't.
I suppose that's true, yeah. They must have been there.
Yeah.
I don't know then. Maybe he didn't lock it and it was unusual.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't respond.
Fell then discovers a walnut in the bed and claims that it is nothing as mundane as being hungry through the night, as he then finds another 4 pairs of pyjamas with walnuts sewn into them.
While he's doing this, Carla tries to record a piece to camera but gets the most withering of looks from the inspector.
Indeed. Now outside we meet a new character.
Yeah, a tabloid photographer.
A very nosy reporter. What's her name?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I just wrote it. I've got her called the photographer throughout the thing.
She's more than a photographer, she's a reporter.
I think she's the one that's doing the reporting?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought she was just taking pictures.
I think she's freelance.
Okay. Certainly her behaviour would go along with her being a reporter, yeah.
Yeah, she does both. When you're on the job, it's just you yourself and you try and get the stories.
Then sell the story, yeah.
Her name's Hattie Barron.
Okay. Does that get mentioned?
Yes.
When? By who?
Don't know.
Okay.
She's taking pictures of the body as it is removed.
Yeah, she's getting in and about the police. She's not just standing back. She's across the taped line and right up with this.
I think at this point, Bryant might actually call her by her name. And he tells her that she's already been warned for this sort of behaviour.
Yeah, he takes the camera from her and exposes the film, ruining all the photographs.
Yeah, before being told to bugger off.
You couldn't do that now, obviously, without actual film in the cameras.
We then find out that, apparently, Inspector Fell is a more than competent detective, as he reveals the reality of the dead man to an impressed Carla.
I'm afraid what appears to have killed our friend in there is a condition called sleep apnea. Cessation of breathing while in a deep sleep, for reasons often unknown, that can be aggravated by obesity and occasionally lead to congestive heart failure. A lot of patients only get it when they lie on their back, the solution to which is to sew a small, hard object like a walnut into your nightshirt to force you onto your side. Of course, if it happens to accidentally slip out.
You're kidding. I'm impressed.
Don't be, it was all in that medical book on the bedside table. Page had been dog-eared. It was obviously something he suffered from. The fact that his TV was tuned to Channel 5 during a late-night Michael Winner season could account for the nasty noises coming through the walls. Is it my imagination, or has he lost weight?
Yeah, the inspector sounds impressive, but it's not that impressive. The fact that he hasn't raised any questions about the answer to this mystery being in a textbook by the man's bedside.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that is a condition you suffer from, unless it's just been very recently diagnosed, you wouldn't have an open medical dictionary.
No, you might as well have a big neon arrow hanging from the roof pointing at it as well.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the clip there, we heard him refer to the body losing weight. Why was that?
Oh, Hattie was hiding in a body bag. It was a trick to get into the hospital, I presume, to find out what was going on. But
Yeah.
certainly to get in on the story.
She is summarily thrown over a bush, causing her to insinuate a threat against the cops.
Yeah, she's quite aggressive.
Well, you would be if you were thrown over I mean, you would be going... These days, you would take them to court.
Yeah, these photographers all want
Because you're in a bag and actually you're thrown over a bush onto the pavement, you could have easily broken your neck.
It's a big moral debate, isn't it? The rights of press and paparazzi to intrude on the privacy of others without any consequences.
Yeah, I don't think that being thrown in a bag onto the street is debatable. I think that's probably quite illegal.
But she was really annoying.
She was really is really annoying.
Yeah. So it balances out.
That Scottish accent, I hate it.
Is it even natural? It did sound like a real Scottish accent.
I think she is.
Yeah.
Anyway, she leaves in pain as mentioned, and she's obviously jealous of Carla, and I think quite understandably. They're both doing the same sort of job. They're both reporters or in the media, but Carla is obviously more easy on the eye.
Yeah, well, Carla's pre-arranged access as well. It's not like she's just shown up and started filming.
True, but I think, yeah, they're keen that... I think what she calls her a fluffy piece of skirt off the box. You know, she's more like a real journalist. Whereas Carla's, oh, you're so impressive, Inspector Fell. But but Hattie's actually one trying to find out really what's going on
Yeah,
here.
they're doing a different job.
Yeah. Right, that's what I'm saying. She feels jealous, but she thinks obviously she's doing a proper job, and Carla is quite just fluffy.
We catch up with Hattie a little later on in her car on the phone.
Yeah, she's calling into her boss's office, for want of a better term.
She talks through the details of the case and takes note of a message that's been left for her.
Yes, asking her or inviting her to be at a certain place the next evening at 12:30 to look out of a window.
Yeah, I tried to get a note of what she'd written down, but her handwriting was awful. It looked like City Sour Pan.
City Tower?
The letters, it looked like SAUER to me, and then PAN, but it almost certainly wasn't. It'll be the name of the building she has to go to anyway. She must have known what it was.
We're back at Pinewood.
Yes, Jonathan and Carla are having a chat as she lionises Inspector Fell to him.
Yeah, I think she's trying to make him jealous.
Absolutely. Solve the locked room mystery in 5 minutes. Jonathan drags it out for 3 weeks.
She also says that Fell has the sharpest mind that she has come across. Obviously, a direct dig at Jonathan.
Absolutely, yeah. And what she doesn't mention, but probably did appreciate, is that he's not a patronising arse.
She tells Jonathan to watch the show that evening.
As they talk, the model of Adam that we saw previously is carried past, and Jonathan issues an instruction not to throw it out.
And just then, the man himself calls to describe his next endurance feat. We don't hear what it is, but Jonathan doesn't seem overly impressed.
No, not at all.
Dismayed, perhaps.
It's probably fair to say.
We're at the location that you weren't sure where it was.
I don't think you were sure either, to be fair.
It's an office block anyway. Hattie has arrived as instructed, and after briefly hiding from a security guard who's in the stairwell, sets herself and her camera up, overlooking another office block across the street.
Yep.
Now she has a telescopic lens, and through this, what is she able to do and see?
Well, she quickly homes in on a body hanging from a noose in a roof in an office.
Yes, female body.
Yes. And having spotted this, she sees in the other side of the same room Inspector Fell.
Yeah, now obviously she's got a camera here, she's taking pictures.
And she recognises him because she saw him earlier in the day. And presumably she's exposed to him regularly.
Oh yeah, I think they're known to each other. Yeah. It's even more sinister than Fell just being there. He appears to be wiping down the desk
and the crime scene, yes.
Yeah, of prints.
And then he walks right up to the body and sneers before leaving.
Yes.
What an evil man.
Doesn't look good at all for him, does it?
No.
Back in the car, Hattie calls her boss again in a panic about what she's just witnessed. And then for some reason she stops at a phone box to continue the call. Why?
Well, there's a number of possible reasons. Thinking back to 2003, it could be she had no signal if she's out on the road.
Okay.
It could be that it's very expensive to call from the mobile phone. Or it could be that she's out of credit.
Okay. Point two, no chance. You're just witnessed a high profile. You're not thinking about the cost at that point. Option 4, which you didn't mention, plot contrivance.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I'm just trying to think back to 2003, 2004. Not everyone had a mobile phone.
A reporter, a journalist, a crime reporter would have.
Well, she had it. We saw her having it, but yeah, coverage areas weren't as good. It could just be that she wasn't able to get a clear call.
Again, that's the type of thing we should have heard that. It would only have taken a second to say, oh, I've lost reception, or I'm running out of...
Well, it could be something that got cut for running time, though.
Maybe.
It's done that before.
Yeah. Fair enough. Anyway, she gets out to use a phone box to continue the call, and what happens?
Her car gets nicked with the camera inside.
Oh, no.
What are the chances? That's so unfortunate.
We're over at the TV studio, and as Carla sarcastically suggests some popcorn is required for an evening's viewing of her husband's colon, Jonathan arrives after being invited to give his opinion on their newest episode of Eyes and Ears.
Yeah, they're setting up a reenactment of the incident with Inspector Fell and the hanging woman, although it's not Inspector Fell who's included.
No. Before watching the recording, however, Jonathan cast doubt over the walnut solution by suggesting that it was too easy, too obvious. Gift wrapped, you might say.
Yeah, and he heavily implies it's not the correct solution.
Yeah. He then watches as Carla presents this programme and offers pure conjecture about what might have happened to the lawyer. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, the whole thing, I suppose this is the raison d'etre of Eyes and Ears. It's a bit more sensationalist, but they come up with potential solutions that are based on nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there to grab ratings, and that's why I think that Hattie is rightly jealous. She's actually on the scene, asking the questions, trying to find out what the truth is. Carla's is giving the audience, making up stuff and saying, yeah, this could have happened.
You know that nowadays one of the Mail or the Express would have, could a Cali immigrant have carried out this murder? Who pretended to be a child to get access to our country and his own benefits and stealing our jobs.
Yeah. So in this scenario, they offer that the intruder might have murdered this lawyer, as it turns out, and set up a fake suicide.
Yeah, they've got... Carlos asks 3 questions in the broadcast. Firstly, she rules out suicide by saying there's no history of depression and she was happily married.
Oh, right, okay. Nonsense, right?
Yeah. They say it was hard to hang yourself in the dark.
But was it dark?
Yeah, she was found in the dark, so they don't know the lights were on.
No, it's not hard to hang yourself. I mean, you could set it up in the light, then turn the light out, and then put your, so okay, nonsense.
And who chewed the gum? Can't have been suicide if there was someone there chewing gum.
Nonsense, but obviously the gum being there is a important piece of evidence.
Yeah. The recording comes to an abrupt halt when Carla realises they've used real gum that's been actually chewed and not a prop like Blue Tack.
Yeah. We should say the gum was found in a plant pot.
Sure. I think it's quite a good way for the Jonathan Creek show rather than the Eyes and Ears show, but for Creek producers or writers to introduce the facts of the case to us.
Yes.
So they're saying this is what is known.
Yeah, and it's also a reasonable way for Jonathan to get involved in murder mysteries.
Yes. I think it's quite clever, yeah. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back over at Carla's home, Baxter arrives just in time to wave off the easy lav and settle himself down to inspect the insides of himself with a snack.
Yeah, it's not quite popcorn, but he has got a bag of nuts there and he's quite excited about the whole thing.
Yeah. He then receives a call from Carla and is pleased to tell her that they are back on mains sewage, with only a few camera tests required to make sure there are no blockages.
Carla's very well aware of the situation.
Yeah, where's she ringing from?
Inside the Portaloo, which is now on its way to Nottingham.
Yeah, she's not amused by this revelation. But rather than phone the company, now, getting back to the whole mobile phone thing, she's a journalist.
Yep.
She could have phoned up got Baxter to phone up EasyLav.
Yeah, but he was being particularly unhelpful. He was essentially of the opinion that you can't help, sorry, get your way back from Nottingham.
Yeah, but still, she should have phoned up EasyLav.
She might not have had the number for
Director
EasyLav.
inquiries.
Yeah, maybe. But she knew a guy who could help her quicker.
Yeah, she calls Phil, who arranges a police escort to come to her rescue.
And that happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a good use of police resources.
No, and Carla bizarrely apologises to the police for not having any money with her. Well, do you just how this works? You pay the police for private services?
Yeah, I don't think the cops would have accepted a £10
No.
note.
In any event, they tell her that she is not allowed to go home. She's being taken to Fell's house instead.
Well, that's not quite accurate. She is invited to Phil's house for some dinner.
Are we assuming she tells her husband this, or does she just let him think she's on her way to Nottingham?
I think she's annoyed, as you said, I think she's annoyed. I don't think, she might mention it later, but she's not going to let him know at this moment.
Yeah, as far as he's concerned, she's in trouble and he doesn't care. He's got a colonoscopy
And that's
to
where,
watch.
and that's where she does indeed go. But we go back to the park.
Hattie arrives by taxi, being without her car, and wonders what rubbish Adam's up to now.
Yeah, she finds him performing his new endurance stunt, a crucifixion.
Oh dear.
A crowd is gathered as Jonathan climbs a ladder to wipe down Adam. We heard that at the top of the podcast.
He's not wiping him down, he's scraping bird crap off him.
Okay, scraping him down. And he asks for 2 girls to be removed from the scene. I think they're...
Just for safety, you can always see down their tops.
Yeah.
Adam talks a little about the inspiration that he is providing by taking on these ancient challenges.
As Jonathan is leaving, Baron sidles up to him to warn him of the company Carla is keeping.
Yeah, he suggests that she go to the police. Well, that's ironic.
Yeah.
Mr. Oh, you sort it out, Kenny. I'll give you 24 hours.
Yeah, but she does say that the problem is actually the police.
Yeah. Meanwhile, over at the Fell home, Carla's eating something she's enjoying. I don't know what it is.
We discover that Fell is a widower, and she is pondering what sort of person can deal with death and murder as a profession.
Yeah,
A cop, obviously.
clearly. She receives a call from Jonathan and becomes agitated as he presumably tells her what Fell's done.
Yes. So she wants to leave ASAP, but Fell insists that she has her coffee first.
Yes. Death is a big subject.
It is.
Too big for most people. It frightens them. So they close their eyes. Box it away. And try to forget that it's going to happen. Only one day we all have to be prepared. You know, to open that box. And maybe we shouldn't be scared of what's inside. Maybe we...
Sorry, you're busy. Carla, just...
No, I was just going, so,
Got my message then? A phone call would have been nice.
I've had things to do. And I'm here, right?
Right. You know, my daughter and I have things to discuss, so let's see if we can get you a cab.
Yeah. What do you think Phil was up to, inviting her round there?
It's all a bit weird, isn't it? It looks like he was about to open his wee box that he'd been stroking.
Yeah, he was stroking a wee box during that scene, yeah. I mean, I assumed that he was trying to woo her.
I thought he was going to kill her.
Yeah, but knowing what we know now.
Okay. Maybe just share some of his beliefs
Yeah.
and his thinking.
Inappropriate, really.
Yeah.
Stranger. Or someone you only know on a professional
But
level.
he's maybe taking the lead from her calling him privately.
But
to
she was
request
stuck in
help.
a dangerous situation.
Yeah, but he might have taken that as a come on, the way that Jonathan wouldn't have.
I'm not sure if he is the type of guy. Doesn't. I mean,
He's
isn't
a
acting
lonely
like.
man.
Yeah, but he's not acting like that. If that was his intention, then the way he was saying what he was saying
Yeah,
is
it's all
not
a
the
bit
type of
creepy,
thing.
isn't it?
I mean, I'm no expert on the fear of sex, but that's not the type of. Not the, yeah, that's true. But it's not the type of patter that gets him going. I've found.
Well, how often have you tried that one?
Never.
You used to imagine, I suppose. Yeah. Well, I can say, no, I have no idea. If anyone listening was aroused by Phil's words to Carla there, please Keep it to
I
yourself.
won't say that he does have a very seductive voice, if probably put to good use.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he just realises he has a seductive voice and doesn't matter what he says. Just get them in the
Barry
room and
hates
talk.
Death.
He's maybe saying, I bet I could even do it with death.
Yeah.
I bet he's into his
I can
mates.
say anything I want. Just love it.
Oh dear.
Anyway, where were we?
He's put Carla in a taxi and she doesn't get very far.
No, just a few yards down the road, she tells his taxi driver to stop and she goes back for a snoop. I don't think... I mean, in that situation, where she was genuinely terrified,
Yeah.
I would be out of there.
Are we assuming that Vel gave the taxi driver money? So
Yes.
That's why he doesn't care about her getting dropped off immediately.
She says that. Because she says, I'll give you this money back. I don't know if it's in this scene or later.
Yes, but did she give it to the taxi driver?
Yeah, I'd imagine it'd be taxi drivers going to want money anyway.
Yeah, for having come out.
Yeah.
Even if he's not got much of a fare. Anyway, she sneaks back in his back gate and goes up to the window where she can hear every word that's being said inside.
Yeah, he's arguing with his daughter over something she claims she didn't do. And he mentions their contract with the mysterious Mr. G.
Who will care?
Yeah. He then apologises, but says he has to do this as he picks up his wee checkered box.
He hands the box to his daughter and picks up some kind of ornament.
Yes.
But at this point, Carla, in the age-old way of bad snooping, stands on a twig.
And causes Vel to come over and close the curtains, but she would still be able to hear.
It's one of those things that you spent half your childhood worrying about happening, standing on a twig while you were hiding from somebody.
Yeah, a serial killer.
Along with quicksand. It's the two things that haven't really come up in my adult life.
Still time.
Yeah. Yeah, so Vel comes over and shuts the curtains, which obviously takes the audio away. And Carla goes to leave, but spots something.
Yeah, she sees a dustbin, which she decides to steal.
Yeah, well, at least the contents of it, because we soon find Jonathan at Carla's office raking through garbage.
Yes. I think he compares it to a Tracy Emin retrospective.
Yes. She explains what she's doing, and as they talk it over, Jonathan gets a bit of an inkling when he reads a newspaper article on the killing.
Okay, well, what is she doing firstly?
She's looking for evidence in...
Specifically, what evidence?
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, she mentions it.
Does she?
Looking for the gum. Or a piece of gum.
Okay, yes, to see if he's a gum chewer, because she's got this lead.
No, they know he's a gum chewer. It's
To get the DNA from the gum.
Or at least the
Yeah.
tooth imprint.
Yeah, fair enough. That was evidence in something else. Was that Columbo?
Yes. It was
The Dead Man's Cheese episode?
Yes.
Ashes.
Oscar Finch.
Not Ashes. Agenda.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was a interesting clue at that time as well.
Yeah. I liked that episode. It was good.
Yeah. Anyway, the lawyer who's been killed apparently played a major role in a significant conviction back in the day.
Yeah, but before we get to that, whilst he's looking through these articles that Carla has collected, she mentions to him, she briefs him on the daughter and the Mr. G situation.
Okay,
Yeah. But Jonathan wants to concentrate on some key points, as you should.
Yeah.
And he immediately picks up on one of the major plot holes in this episode, the tip-off.
Okay.
And who would have been in a position to let Baron know about this whole murder-suicide thing?
Yeah, why would Fell do that?
Yeah.
He wouldn't. So that almost immediately
Introduces a third party.
brings in a wild card, yeah. So, as I was saying earlier, this lawyer who has been hung in her office was, I think, a prosecutor in a major case, and it led to a significant conviction, and Fell had been involved as a young policeman.
Yeah, I think this happened back in 1987.
The case hinged on the evidence of a Derek Crozier who had been part of a criminal group that turned Crown's evidence or Queen's evidence and went into witness protection.
And they recognise him.
Yes, he is this bookmaker that Carla found dead with the walnuts at the start of the episode.
He was indeed. We're back to the Walnut Flat, where Carla watches nervously as Jonathan breaks in and listens as he admits that it is quite the coincidence that two people who helped put away these criminals you mentioned are dead within 24 hours of each other. Now, I think this is a ridiculously stupid thing.
For the criminal to do?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you want to discuss it just now or do you want to wait until later, but...
No, we can do it now because we now know that these two connected people have been murdered back to back.
So if you're thinking that there's some sort of criminal mastermind, which we might come to learn, is behind this, you'd have to be very stupid to commit these two crimes. I mean, you're going to look at both of these victims
Yeah.
and say, okay, what ties them together?
Unless you don't care about getting away with it.
No, I think you do care about getting away with
Yeah,
it.
but that's the only thing that if you cared about getting away with it, you wouldn't do it this way.
No, that's can't be true, because you've went to such. If you didn't care about getting away with it, you would walk up and stab them or shoot them in the street.
No, but you want to get away with it long enough to do all the killing. But no, but his framing fell, so
Yeah,
nah, it doesn't add up.
no, these people do want to get away with it.
Yeah, so they're just stupid. But then they weren't really famed for their brains, were they?
Well, maybe not in the day, but apparently they're trying to set up these three incredible crimes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stand up. It's an inconsistency, I think, in the story.
Or at least just a very bad plan by the criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Carla and Jonathan are breaking into this flat. And we get this sort of ubiquitous point of view shot from outside.
Yes, someone is looking up at them,
How did they know they were there?
following them.
Creepy.
Mm-hmm. So Jonathan wants to do an experiment.
Yeah, he gets Carla to, because she's closer to the right size, try on these pyjamas and then take half of them off.
Yeah, well, the bottoms have bunched up, and Jonathan doesn't think that it will work if she's holding them together. So she immediately drops them for him.
But she does put on an indignant face. It's like, okay, fine, you can see my pants, but I didn't want this.
Yeah, but you did want this.
Anyway, she finds that lying on the bed in the pyjama top is not that uncomfortable.
No, because the walnut in that position is in the small of her back.
Yeah, it's just, it's there, but it doesn't stop you lying that way.
But Jonathan then moves it a little bit higher.
Yeah, and that stops her. So it would have been in the arch of the back or up towards the shoulder blades if it was genuinely designed to have the effect that was intended. Now, that is stupidity. If you've gone to the effort of reading the medical book, leaving the thing open, why would you put the walnuts in the wrong place?
I know.
Anyway, Jonathan then concludes that he didn't have sleep apnea and this is just a setup.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what else is happening at this point is Jonathan is inspecting the bolts and around the door area he sniffs at something.
He does,
Yeah.
and
On the bed as well, they have another little moment together. There's a bit of
a little face to
atmosphere
face.
of it, yeah, and they think we're both here. But that would be really creepy, wouldn't it, if they took it any further in a
In
dead
that room,
man's
yeah.
walnut bed.
Is it as bad as making the little girl sleep in her dead grandpa's room the day after he died?
It depends. I mean, if they're having sex, then yes.
Yeah, okay. Jonathan comes to the conclusion that this was a murder, probably a suffocation, but the killer hasn't really thought it through properly.
Yeah.
Which maybe ties in with what you were saying about stringing them all together. He's maybe okay up to a point with the planning, but he's not quite as smart as he thinks he is.
I think he explains how the bolts could have been shut. That
He does. He says that, you would use a piece of twine soaked in paraffin, and then once you pulled them shut, you would set them on fire. Now, these bolts are hard enough to shut when you're looking at them.
yeah.
Okay, we'll let him away with that one.
They make tracks, and outside in the car, Jonathan suggests that they sit on what they know for a little bit. And Carla agrees, at least until they can get the gum situation sorted, or find out who this Mr. G is.
She's shocked then as Jonathan suddenly pulls her towards him.
Yeah, shocked and happy.
Perhaps.
Happily shocked.
But then shocked and shocked because there's a knife plunged through the roof of the car.
Yeah, so I don't understand this. Are they trying to kill them?
I think maybe just a warning.
But you wouldn't know. I mean, that was, if he didn't pull her at that second, you would have killed her.
I don't know.
You know, as a warning, it's very close to being a permanent warning.
It's very inconsistent. The behaviour of this killer is very inconsistent all the way through. So he has got this magical trick with the twine to lock the door and set up the sleep apnea excuse, and frame fell for the other killing. But he doesn't put the walnuts in the right place.
Yeah.
And he makes the mistake about doing it all together, and he misses Carla with the knife and runs off anyway.
I know.
It's, there's some things that are done well and other things that are a bit botched.
Yeah, it's just a script and a plot that's a bit up and down.
Yeah, you need this guy to be almost two people.
Yeah.
You would almost be better if it was a criminal duo and one of them was stupid and one of them was smart.
Yeah. Anyway, this chap runs off.
We get a very brief interlude from the next day where the photographer's car, Hattie's car, is found abandoned.
Indeed. Back to the TV studio where Jonathan and Carla come running in late to be met by Baxter, who's eager to hear their new take on the Walnut case.
But he's invited a third party.
Yes, that wasn't what they expected, because it is the gum-chewing inspector, who is also very keen to find out what they know.
Yeah, he gives a nice little throwback to season 2. When he's introduced to Jonathan, he talks about Mother Redcap, where Jonathan was involved in solving the Forrest Sweetland murder, and it was a policeman who committed that crime. It was a good episode.
It was enjoyable, yeah.
Yeah, and it was nice to have a little throwback to it here.
Yeah,
a few years later.
Jonathan tells them about the walnut positioning.
Yeah, but his tone and his demeanour is such that it's apparent that's not what he came to say.
Yes, and before they can discuss anything in more detail, Bryant enters with Barron, who has now recovered the pictures. Oh,
bad times.
Very. And even Bryant finds it hard to believe his boss, and just can't take his word for his innocence.
No.
So understanding his predicament, Fell is forced to divulge some personal problems.
Here's the whole deal. Jessica, my daughter, has had some problems. Chemical dependency. Buying and selling. How often does it happen? She picked the wrong friends. They fell on her like vultures. In the space of a year, she was a ghost. Well, between us, took a lot of pain, a lot of work, but she got through it. The bench was lenient, but she knew what to expect if she ever went back. So, spool forward 18 months to last Monday. This woman, Marion Crespo, sends me a letter advising me that certain sworn statements have come into her possession regarding my daughter. Basically, a major drugs bust she was handling, and Jess had been named as one of the suppliers. And it might be in my interest to drop by for a discreet inspection of the documents. So I get there and find the place empty. Naturally, I'm not going to sit around twiddling my thumbs. You found that bit of gum I dumped in the plant pot in the corner? Big deal. So yeah, I sniff around, locate the material in question, which, as she said, isn't going to look good on my daughter's CV. No point now waiting for this person to show up. And I don't particularly want to advertise the fact I've been there. So, all I can think about now is, how did this happen? When she gave me every reason to trust her.
Yeah, he doesn't want to advertise he's been there, so he wipes the place down but leaves the gum.
Yeah. It reminds me of movies or TV shows like Columbo, where the killer would walk about with like cigarettes and things like that. You're thinking, oh,
what are you doing?
Yeah. Anyway, he goes on to claim that the whole thing's a fit-up and implies that Barron may have photoshopped the pictures, and I think that would be a reasonable defence. I mean, I think these days, considering the pictures side by side, it would be very, you couldn't rely on those images to prove anything, I don't think.
No.
You'd have to have more than that.
Yeah, well, you've got the gum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've placed him at the scene of the crime.
Sure, but that explanation does make sense then. If you're saying, okay, if you accept it could be photoshopped, that it's a setup, you're saying, then, everything else does fall into place.
Mm.
It doesn't cut any ice, though, as we next see him being led away in cuffs.
Yeah, we're outside now, and as he's placed in the back of the police car, we see him slide the child lock to the off position.
Yes. As he's driven off, Jonathan ponders what Fell had said about where he discarded his gum in the office. He said in a plant pot in the corner. And that wasn't where it was found.
No, it was in the middle of the room.
Hmm.
Interesting.
He realises it is the type of very small detail that could be case-changing. But he then receives a call about Adam that further dismays him.
Yeah. We're down at the park, and Jonathan and Carla observe what Jonathan sees as a perfect comic setup.
Yeah, Adam is on the cross, which is now leaning forward at, a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, and he's about to fall face first into a giant pile of manure.
I hate manure.
Adam will shortly if he lands in it. Jonathan thinks back to the 40s and merry melodies, and this would be an ideal sort of scenario, but in the circumstances, he's not going to allow Adam to to collapse into the stinking dung.
We cut quickly to the police car, where there's dramatic music as Bryant sits in the back with Fell, who bides his time and then makes his escape on foot.
Yeah, it's a crime that he's not called back for later on.
I think you might get off with that.
Would you?
Yeah.
I don't think it's one of these circumstances where just because you were innocent, you're allowed to escape police custody.
Nah, but it's not as if he's broken out of jail or prison. I think they'll probably take things into consideration and say, well, yeah, you were entirely innocent, you were trying to prove, and you did prove your point.
But that just encourages others who believe themselves to be innocent to do the same thing.
No, because what he did was, he didn't try and escape, say, I'm innocent, I'm going to go on the run. He escaped to then prove his point.
He didn't commit any violence, I suppose.
Yeah.
Still, I think technically very illegal.
Yeah, perhaps, but I think they will turn a blind eye to that. They certainly don't want to be charging. The cops want to cover this up. They don't want to. There's very bad publicity.
Yeah, that's true.
Back at the park, Carla admits that Barron could have faked the pictures, but has a feeling that Fell is hiding something before admitting that Adam doesn't care who he offends.
Yeah, and Jonathan takes a bit of inspiration from Adam, I think. It gives him a bit of a new thought on the whole process. He doesn't reveal exactly what he's thinking.
True.
The cross is back perpendicular, looking good, but the idiots pulling it are not done.
No, they pull it too far in the opposite direction and quite probably break Adam's back.
They're at least going to concuss him in that circumstance.
Yeah, it could shatter your skull.
Yeah, it's horrific. They pull it until it topples backwards onto the ground.
Yeah. Carla asks about the eureka moment that Jonathan had, and he notes that he now thinks that he knows what Fell is all about, which leads him back to the lawyer's office that should reveal all.
Yeah. While they're having this chat, the ambulance takes Adam away, but as they conclude, they hear him moaning. It's a confusing moment.
Yeah, so they walk round the other side of a truck to find who, what.
Well, Adam attached to the cross on the ground. I don't understand what's happened.
Yeah, apparently they've taken away the dummy.
How?
Who knows?
Okay, great comic moment, but how in... Let's not think about it too hard. Let's move on to the next scene.
Well, what happens?
The doctor is not impressed when the dummy is brought to him by the paramedic, and he removes the head to make his point.
I think the paramedic nearly vomits.
Yes, because, the paramedic clearly is a moron.
Yeah. We're at the Fell house.
Jessica takes a phone call, presumably telling her to watch out her dad's escaped custody and he might be a murderer.
Indeed.
She takes it all in rather calmly, and her dad enters the house at that precise moment.
Yes, she looks nervous and asks him what he wants her to believe.
Yeah, obviously if you're told this man's a killer, you're just going to go along with what he's trying to do, and he eyes up this checkered box.
Yeah, I think they both do. They both mysteriously look down as we end the scene.
I think the idea is we're meant to think, oh, he was going to kill Carla, there's a weapon in this box, it's ceremonial. He's going to pull this out. He's going to whip out his sword and punish her.
I thought it was more symbolic, like in Pulp Fiction.
I keep meaning to watch that, but I haven't yet.
Okay. Not sure if you've missed the boat.
Maybe.
It was very 90s.
Is it?
Yeah.
They've got the Blu-ray at home. But
listen, no, it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't think you'll find it as original, obviously. Because, there's, since then, you'll have...
it's inspired 1,000 homilies.
Sure.
Homilies? No, homages.
Homages.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the car, Jonathan calls Inspector Bryant and leaves a message. They're heading to the lawyer Crespo's office, and he should meet them there in about an hour.
Mm-hmm. However, we see that they are being followed by another car.
Yes, black BMW. Do not trust BMW drivers.
Okay.
If they're not following you, they're going to cause an accident by their irrational driving.
We're now at the lawyer's office.
Yep, Jonathan and Carla enter as the man who was following them goes into the opposite building. I think the one that we saw the journalist enter earlier on.
Yes. As soon as they walk onto the floor, we see that there's building equipment and lights lying around, and Jonathan claims that answers their first question, whatever that may be.
Who knows? We're kind of given... I think we're being led to believe that the other man is Fell.
Yes.
Because we get...
Well, it is Fell at one point.
Fell's there.
Yeah.
But there is a third person.
Yeah. So at the same time, we see a sinister gloved figure with a briefcase, walk up the stairs of this facing building, where Barn had been, as you said, and it appears to be Fell.
Jonathan thinks he's cracked the case. He's looking at a cartoon on the wall.
He is. I think it's a satirical piece lampooning the justice system.
Yeah, and I think it's based around the case that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The older case that the lawyer was prosecuting.
But things go from cartoonish to sinister very quickly.
Yes, before Carla can reach the same conclusion that Jonathan has, bullets start raining down on them through the window.
Yes. Not, however, from Fell's gun, as in fact he rushes to stop the would-be assailant, who is the security guard from the other night.
It's a dramatic twist.
It is. Nice twist, actually.
Nicely done.
Liked it.
Fell apprehends the man and puts him under arrest. Surely he would have been suspended when he was arrested.
Citizen's arrest.
Yeah, with handcuffs.
Yeah.
Technically kidnapping. Anyway.
It's a little later in the office, where Jonathan reveals the truth to Bryant in the company of Fell.
Tempting as it is to put all this down to the press going about their normal business, as peddlers of lies and distortion, Hattie Barron, as it turns out, was just part of a much bigger setup here. A setup, I think we're all now aware, that stemmed from the nastiest piece of work in this whole affair.
If I'd recognised Crozier in that bed, he might have got there sooner.
Just to say, we're on our way to Marion Crespo's office.
Once it clicked, and I picked up your call in the office voicemail. Oh yes, the lovely Patrick James MacDonald.
Closest we'll ever get, probably, to a real-life Napoleon of crime. Finally nailed, along with his chum Jason Lee, in March 1987 on a fairly breathtaking raft of charges that appear to have put them both away for life. But I think you've got an update for us on that one, Sergeant.
3rd of June, 92, Lee appears to have lost the plot and strung himself up with some knotted tea towels. MacDonald, with the help of a smart legal team, managed to swing an early parole. Ended up back in circulation just over a month ago.
Vowing, we can assume, to get even with 3 people who by now he didn't like very much. The key witness at his trial, the lawyer who put the case together, and the young detective who brought him in. Mr. Rampole, sadly, didn't hang around very long. Victim of a rare sleeping disorder, we were meant to believe, while Miss Crespo goes the way of his late colleague, the end of a rope. And to round it all off, what could be sweeter than to see the police officer put away for a murder he didn't commit?
The Napoleon of crime.
No. Yeah, if by that you mean a little short arse.
Yeah, a really short guy who committed crime.
Yeah.
The Napoleon of crime, depending on your cultural preferences, is either Moriarty or McCavity.
Yes.
That's about the size of it.
Yeah. I'll go with Moriarty.
Okay, I'll take McCavity to cover all bases.
Fine. Who's your favourite character from Cats? I think it's Rum Tum Tugger, is that not that?
It used to be Rum Tum Tugger, but I do like Gus, the theatre cat.
Ridiculous. What's the other one with the silly name? They're all silly names.
Rumple Teaser.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's quite a few. Mr. Mistopheles.
Yes.
McCavity's a good one as well. He's called the Hidden Paw.
Oh, dear me. Nonsense. This is nonsense. Anyway. Yeah, leaving aside the nickname of the Napoleon of crime, he's clearly hinted at it earlier on, or we briefly discussed it earlier on. This is a dreadful plot for a number of reasons. One, he's been immediately straight after. So this guy gets out of jail and then immediately goes after the 3 people all associated with putting him in prison.
Yeah, and his entire plot relies on the journalist not revealing her source.
Well, see, that's the biggest problem I've got with it, is that as soon as you tell someone to turn up and watch this murder or watch someone being involved, you immediately know that there's a third party. So you can't rely on anything else.
But he might be hoping that the tabloids are so excited at having images of this crime being committed that they just jump on the Burn Fell bandwagon, don't talk about who tipped them off.
Listen, I'm pretty sure. However, when it goes to court, you're hoping that the tabloids are ignored and the evidence is looked at, and the defence team says, "Wait a second, the lawyer, the reporter got a note saying turn up. Someone else knew about this. Who is this person? It's a setup. It's obviously a setup."
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It definitely does not.
Jonathan goes on to explain how Fell was enticed into the office by the letter referencing his daughter and another letter to Barn, as we just mentioned there.
Yeah, obviously the lawyer didn't write that letter to Fell at all.
No.
MacDonald did, for anyone who's not quite caught up.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that Fell arrives at this seemingly empty office, the body's already hanging in the room next door.
And we're going to hear what really went on and how. The plant pot, the cartoon, and a partition all played a part. Ian, tell us what happened.
Yeah, so along the line of the window frame, so that it was not perceivable from where Hattie was standing, there's a partition put up separating this one big room into two smaller rooms, and in the smaller half the body is hanging, and in the larger half, I don't know which one's bigger, but anyway, in the other half, we should say, the other part, Fell is given these faked documents, and there's the cartoon that we talked about, which includes a representation of Fell himself, so presumably to attract his attention, placed on the partition so that he appears to be sneering at the body, when in fact he's maybe grimacing at this cartoon of himself as a younger man. The corner reference, so the plant pot hasn't been moved, the gum hasn't been moved to a different plant pot, it's just that there was a corner there that didn't remain there after he'd left. But Jonathan spotted some drilled holes in the wall showing that the partition had been held up. That was a pretty poor step by the person putting the partition up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You would take other measures to avoid that, surely.
You'd fill it in.
At the very least, repaint that section, but then that would be obvious. You have to repaint the whole room.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned this type of theoretical crime before. It's on paper, you say this is how you would do it. In practice, it would be near enough impossible
work,
to pull
yeah.
off. No.
Yeah. Anyway, we find out who Mr. G is. Jonathan, I think, had said to Carla earlier, haven't you figured this out yet?
Yeah, this annoys me. Who is Mr. G?
It says Mr. Capital G.
Mm-hmm.
The big man upstairs, the cloud sitter himself.
Yeah.
Gandalf. Or one other similarly fictional character.
What was the main clue for Jonathan on this? Can you remember?
It was the way that Fell shuddered when the rotund fellow was particularly blasphemous earlier on.
Yeah. See, this doesn't sit right with me either. I think for someone like Fell, who is so into, I'm not going to say religion because he admits he's not into organised religion, but is so into God, calling him Mr. G, don't think so. That would, to me, that would be blasphemous if, in his position.
To be fair, I think that's strictly the way that he refers to them when he's talking to his daughter. So I think we've seen this before with the rap album that David Rennick came up with. I think this is how he thinks you relate to young people. So this is Fell's way of making God real to his daughter, is to give him a cool street name. I genuinely think that's what that is.
We'll go with that as the explanation then.
Yeah, and the daughter's bought in, obviously, because she's turned her life around.
Yeah.
Because these documents are fake and she wasn't back involved with drugs.
So through a flashback, we get an overly dramatic revelation of the contents of the checkered box.
Oh.
What was it?
I think it was a Bible and probably holy water and a photograph of his dead wife.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any holy water. I made that bit up. Perhaps there was some part of the Holy Spirit in there, God's insubstantial friend.
Yeah. Brian notes that someone has certainly looked after Fell that day. And Fell agrees and thanks who?
Jonathan.
JC.
Yeah. I was quite pleased with that because it's kind of...
JC?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, JC, yes. The third part of the Trinity.
Yeah.
I was quite pleased with that because it was kind of a twist on, I don't know, you don't watch a lot of American sports, but anytime anybody wins anything, it's like,
oh yeah,
how were you able to achieve this? Well, first of all, I want to thank my saviour for putting me in a position to achieve all this today.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I watch a lot of American boxing, and that's the thing as well. Every one of them, after it, the first people to thank, generally, it's like,
all
really?
Things are possible through him.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of garbage.
Yeah. Carla turns her nose up at Baxter's recent viewing habits as Jonathan leaves him with a diagram of the solution of the recent mystery for the TV
to use
show.
On the television show. I think that's part of Jonathan's work with him. He's probably now a paid consultant to the show, much as he claimed to loathe the whole concept earlier in the season.
And we finish with a nice mix-up.
Yes, Carla says that Brendan's colon is the most disgusting thing she's ever seen. Well, there's two mix-ups.
Okay.
So this is the first one. She's actually watching the footage of their drain.
Yes.
And he's outraged that she would be looking at bits of drain and tree root and garbage and think that's inside him. And secondly, his fantastic colonoscopy video turns out to be a case of mistaken identity.
Yes, what was it?
It was in fact a Mrs. Brenda Baxter who had the fantastic colon, and it's revealed because he mentions that the letter continues to praise her fallopian tubes. And Jonathan picks up the envelope, which is making the situation obvious.
Yeah. Jonathan then claims he'd rather stay at home and watch the end of this video than
Does
attend...
he live with them now?
No, maybe working from there. Anyway, rather than attend the ITV Winter Press launch.
Is that a shot at ITV there?
Must be.
Yeah. It's kind of left as a cliffhanger. I think he's being made to go, though.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
It can't be made to go. Who could make him go?
All he says is that it's an easy choice.
Yeah, he'd
But
rather watch it.
Brendan's anticipation is that he'll come.
No, I think Brendan's leaving to go and invites him anyway. I don't think he wants or expects him to go.
Really?
Yeah.
He showed up like in the middle of a holiday. He was diving in their boat when they were having a private conversation.
Yeah, to be with his wife.
Yeah.
Wasn't for Jonathan.
Okay. I think he just sees them as a threesome now.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah, that's how it ends. Literally on that bombshell.
Yeah, and as we mentioned at the start, I think it was a fun episode if you overlook some of the very major plot holes and contrivances.
One thing that you probably shouldn't do with this series is examine the character of Brendan Baxter, because he's a different character in many ways each time he shows up.
Yeah, but he's always fun.
And his relationship with Carla is either to be taken seriously or not to be taken seriously, depending on how it suits the plot of the episode and how it services Carla and Jonathan's relationship.
Yeah.
He's both a serious and a frivolous person, and I don't know. I think the actor does a good job with the character, but I think if you just isolated his scenes, it would be a bit inconsistent.
But he's only there for comedy value.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair enough. It's a sitcom-y style character.
Okay.
I suppose we probably shouldn't dig too deep into Ken Starkis either, but he's dead now, so we don't need to.
Thankfully. Okay, the 21st of February 2004 was the original air date, and it was again directed by Sandy Johnson. Colin McFarlane played Inspector Fell, who was born in 1961. He's done an awful lot of voice work, but he's also been in some major Hollywood pictures as well. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Doctor Who, Chuggington, Casualty. He was the voice, or he is the voice of The Cube, the game show.
I wouldn't call Chuggington a major Hollywood production, to be honest.
No.
I mean, it's good, but...
Little Princess, Coronation Street, The Bill, Bob the Builder, and The Fast Show.
He's only doctors away from being the full bingo line that we said at the start of
Probably
the
in there
series.
as well, yeah. Myra McFadden played Hattie Barron. She's not actually had a massive on-screen career.
I thought she looked familiar, to be honest.
Maid of Honour, Mamma Mia, The Steamy,
Possibly from Mamma Mia. I
maybe.
guess.
But yeah, I think she's done about 10, 12 things. Steve Spears played Detective Herbie Bryant. He was born in 1965. He's been in a lot of movies. You may have seen him in Star Wars Phantom Menace, Eragon, Pirates of the Caribbean, Upstart Crow, Stella, Big School, Casualty, Doctor Who, We Are Seven. And his brother is opera singer Jeffrey Lloyd Roberts, if you're into your opera.
Eragon, there's one that I could talk about for an hour.
Yep, but you won't. Petra Letang played the Jessica. She was born in 1979 and has starred in many episodes of EastEnders and Holby City, as well as The Bill and The Naked Poet. Director's cameo. Did you spot it this week?
No.
Sandy Johnson played the casualty doctor who realised it was a dummy.
Out and lifted the head off.
Fancy an episode of review.
Let's go for it.
Motive. Easy one.
Yeah, it was revenge, essentially, for his incarceration.
Yep. I'll run through the clues. Tell me if I miss anything. The tip-off itself, the newspaper article, the remains of the cord on the bolts, the walnut position, the position of the plant pot, the building equipment that they found, the holes in the partition wall, and Bryant shouting in Jesus Christ.
Possibly the satirical sketch as well.
Yes. The gotcha. Straightforward.
Yeah, he was arrested in the act of shooting at people.
Yes. Okay. Next time we've got Gorgon's Wood.
It sounds like a dragon.
Or Gorgon's Wouldn't.
What What would a Gorgon? How much would a Gorgon if a Gorgon could?
Well, we'll find out in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, trivia-wise, the usual sort of quotes from Davis and Renwick this week.
Okay, go for it.
Really just a contemporary quotes, so they're of their time, talking about David Blaine and to an extent a young Darren Brown and the endurance feats, which are not really magic in my book at all.
No.
In fact, they aren't.
No.
I don't understand why they're classed as magic.
No.
But anyway, yeah, inspired, obviously Adam's work here inspired by David Blaine.
Yeah.
I can tell you who at that point was another inspiration for it, a Jeff Smith of Mansfield, who prior to David Blaine's plastic coffin trek of 1999 claimed the world record for being buried alive by spending 147 days in a specially constructed coffin in his garden, overtaking the title once held by his mother, Emma, who in 1968 spent 100 days down a hole in Skegness.
Yeah, it wouldn't be my pick off endurance feats.
I'm a bit claustrophobic.
Yeah.
I would struggle greatly with. I don't even like being in a lift for too long.
Yeah. I'm not quite that bad, but I think as I get older, there are certain things. I mean, potholing gives me the fear.
Heebie-jeebies,
Oh yeah, there's no chance I'd get down a pothole.
I say heebie-jeebies because my 9-year-old came up with that out of the blue. I had no idea where he got the phrase heebie-jeebies from.
Yeah.
But yes, no, I don't even like having things sitting on my chest if I'm sitting down.
No.
I mean, I don't avoid lifts. I'm not so bad that I'll freak out. But if I'm in bed and the covers come up too high, I need to get them off me. I don't like it.
Well, I think that's it. Lifts don't really bother me, but it's when I feel physically constrained.
Yes. Yeah, I look at things like you look in Die Hard or whatever when they're crawling through air vents. Like, no, I would go 2 yards and then just stop with it. No, I can't move my elbows. No.
Fortunately, we don't have to do any of these endurance feats, and we will return, hopefully, in 2 weeks' time to discuss Gorgons, as we mentioned.
Cheerio.
Bye bye.